Oprah Winfrey was not friends with Jeffrey Epstein. She never went to a Diddy party. And somehow throughout every controversy she ever faced over her 40-year career, it was merely just a misunderstanding and she was completely innocent of any wrongdoing. Well, that's the official narrative. Whether she was platforming horrible offenders, exploiting victims for content, diverting attention away from Harvey Weinstein's crimes, starting a school in South Africa for young girls who ended up being abused by the employees, or her terrible Hawaii charity, the official narrative is always that Oprah was just trying to do the right thing and unfortunately, it just didn't work out. But for some reason, if you search across the internet, you will find that so many people think the billionaire is shady, hiding something or potentially evil, which is the complete opposite of the mainstream opinion that she is a deeply caring woman who is extremely generous with her money. So today, we're going to deep dive into Oprah Winfrey's career and the controversies that kept getting reframed as misunderstandings because at a certain point, the pattern becomes impossible to ignore. Oprah became both the youngest person and the first black woman to anchor the news at Nashville's WTVF-TV at age 19. By 1984, she relocated to Chicago to host WLS-TV's morning program, AM Chicago. And this was around the time that the industry started to realize the potential Oprah had. AM Chicago became the city's #1 daytime talk show within a month, surpassing broadcasting legends. Less than a year later, AM Chicago expanded to a full hour and was rebranded as The Oprah Winfrey Show, which entered national syndication in 1986 and became television's highest-rated talk show. Oprah knew how to excite a crowd or those watching at home, but she could also calm down and talk deeply and intimately about serious topics. She'd embrace the guest with her warm energy and give them her full undivided attention, like her interview with Connie Francis where she discussed surviving assault. Everybody who has ever had to face it, and that's why it's so good that you're on here, because you think you have problems. My goodness, because you were such a superstar and have survived such traumatic things in your lives. If you could do it, then people feel like they can too. But beyond celebrities, Oprah would interview ordinary people about issues that were not widely discussed on television. One particular episode revolved around normal couples who struggled with infertility problems. Some other similar topics were women who snoop on their husbands, the complicated dynamics between mothers and daughters, and even women who were involved in the usage or distribution of cocaine. Oprah's style of discussion felt natural and honest. Millions of viewers at home could relate to these testimonies, watching people on television describe experiences that they had gone through themselves. However, not everyone was exactly celebrating Oprah's newfound popularity. This article from 1988 is technically complimenting her, but it reads like they are insulting her. Few would have bet on Oprah Winfrey's swift rise to host of the most popular talk show on TV. In a field dominated by white males, she is a black woman of ample bulk, usually over 190 pounds, though she has lost 24 of them since starting a medically supervised all-liquid diet 3 weeks ago. What she lacks in journalistic toughness, however, she makes up in plain-spoken curiosity, robust humor, and above all, empathy. Oprah faced prejudice about her race, weight, and lack of formal education. She came off as a regular person just trying to relate to regular people. But beyond the prejudice, there were also real criticisms about how Oprah approached these topics. Her show focused more on how stories felt rather than breaking them down in any kind of expert or academic way. Oprah wasn't bringing on specialists who could accurately explain why these people were in the situations that they were. But to be fair, many of the topics didn't really demand that level of analysis. These were everyday problems discussed by everyday people. But something interesting started to happen. Simply by hosting these conversations and validating people's stories, Oprah herself started to be viewed as someone to trust in a broad range of subjects. Even though she wasn't presenting any research, expert consensus, or long-term data, her authority got even stronger when she used herself as an experiment for extreme weight loss. And it launched her into mainstream fame. Oprah went on a 4-month-long medically supervised fast program called Optifast, where she bragged about not eating any food for the entire duration. Optifast is considered a supplemental fast, meaning that the patients survive on high-protein vitamin powder mixed with water. The formula is taken 5 times a day to substitute for eating. Total daily caloric intake is 420. Oprah went from 212 pounds to 145 pounds in 4 months. And to celebrate her new body, she brought out a wagon of disgusting fat that represented the amount that she had lost. At the time, I felt it was important to show it in that way because I'd starved. I literally starved for 4 months or 4.5 months. The fat loss episode in particular caught the eyes of 62 million viewers during a period when everyone watched TV exclusively. This stunt almost got as much attention as the Super Bowl that same year. This was dangerous because it made an extreme, tightly controlled medical program look like a simple starvation diet. And the 62 million viewers who watched didn't have the doctors or financial means to attempt this safely. By Oprah celebrating the results without emphasizing the risks, the message became dangerously simple. This worked for me, so it could work for you. And suddenly, one supervised fast gave Oprah the perception as an expert in nutrition. She started making diet plans and dangerous foods a recurring theme on her show, which would eventually get her into some major legal trouble down the road. But by 1988, Oprah was on top of the world. She founded Harpo Studios, becoming the third woman in American entertainment history to own her own studio. She now had more potential than any other talk show host or any other media personality in history. She had massive ambitions, and it quickly became clear that she was willing to do anything to get to the top, pushing boundaries of what daytime television could get away with. Like when she brought on a gang of white supremacists on her show to discuss their worldview. A bunch of low IQ racists came on Oprah to spread hate, and she did very little to push back or challenge what they were saying. The very moment that the white supremacists left the show, Oprah realized that she had platformed a very dangerous group of individuals, and she swore to never do it again. When they left, I made a decision that I would no longer allow the platform that I had to be misused by people who were carrying any form of negative energy that could create more negative energy in the world. What I thought I had been doing was allowing people to see how violent, how abusive, how not smart they were, but I was actually doing the opposite. But this wasn't exactly the truth. Oprah continued to platform people with dangerous ideologies, and things got dark quickly. Winfrey slowly stepped away from logical, ordinary discussions and entertained more sensationalism. One of her most successful series was about a phenomenon called the Satanic Panic. It was a wave of moral panic that swept across the nation as many Americans believed that secret satanic cults were abusing children, performing rituals, and infiltrating schools, daycares, and communities. For Oprah, it looked like she saw this as a great opportunity, regularly platforming anyone who made claims of experiencing satanic worship. My next guest was used also in worshiping the devil, participated in human sacrifice rituals, cannibalism. What kinds of things went on in the family? Babies would be sacrificed and you would have to, babies. There were people who bred babies in our family. Despite lacking verifiable evidence, stories about supernatural or dark spirits kept viewers glued to the screen. The country's strong Christian values at the time helped fuel the hysteria, and the Satanic Panic became the modern version of the Salem witch trials. Some pastors even believed threats came from movies and video games. Heavy metal and hard rock bands like Iron Maiden, Def Leppard, and Judas Priest were accused of pushing Satanism through their lyrics and dark imagery. In 1989, Michelle Smith, co-author of Michelle Remembers, appeared on the Oprah Winfrey Show alongside Laurel Rose Wilson, another publicized victim of satanic cults. Her claims appeared in the 1988 book Satan's Underground, where she detailed extreme graphic stories of supposed occult torture. However, her claims were debunked after investigators found that none of her claims of satanic ritual abuse could be verified. In her book, Wilson described being forced into cult ceremonies, but reporters discovered that the key events were impossible. She wasn't living with abusive Satanists, but in foster care. No police or medical records matched Wilson's stories, and the people she named as perpetrators had alibis or no connections to her at all. Simply put, her book was all made up, but Oprah had her on anyway. Similarly, Smith's Michelle Remembers was debunked through basic fact-checking. Journalists found that a lot of the dramatic events Michelle described, like month-long rituals, car accidents, and hospitalizations, had no records or evidence. And despite both of these books being entirely made up, almost closer to science fiction, both women's experiences were presented by Winfrey as completely true. And not once did she question the authenticity of any claim in either book. But Oprah did not stop there. She brought on a young boy named Duffy Strode, whose family was being chased out of town for stirring up fear in Marion, North Carolina. While it might have made for engaging television, there was something seriously wrong about putting a very young child on stage to defend his beliefs to a crowd of angry spectators. It's pretty clear this young boy doesn't fully understand what's going on. He almost seems kind of hypnotized. And remember, this is pre-social media. It's not like the boy was already amplifying his voice and getting millions of views on everyone's phones around the world. Oprah gave them a national platform, and she presented herself as the voice of reason, but also refused to keep her audience calm and under control. She knew the chaos made for great TV. And yes, people were critical of Oprah at the time, but it didn't matter. She owned the show. She was the boss. And as long as the network was making money, they didn't care. By the early 90s, a genre now called trash TV was emerging. The media started moving towards more sensational stories or controversial topics with shows like The Jerry Springer Show, The Jenny Jones Show, and many hosts would bring on random people with unknown backgrounds to share their issues like unwanted pregnancies, stolen inheritance, or damaged property. The goal always seemed to make the situation so emotionally explosive that the guests and audience members would literally start fighting each other. And I'd be lying if I said this wasn't entertaining. But the key difference was that these shows were unapologetically chaotic. The spectacle was the point, and everyone involved understood that going in. Oprah was supposed to be facilitating meaningful discussions, but she tried to balance that fine line between sensationalism and legitimate topics. And she honestly did a great job at it. In 1990, she interviewed a murderer and bank robber in prison who had multiple personality disorder. In 1991, she brought on mothers and stepmothers to argue over who deserves what authority in the child's life. My first guest, Patty, calls her kid stepmom. She's here with her daughter, Tina. Tina claims that she loves both of them. Tina's stepmother, Sharon Saylor, says Patty is jealous because of the close relationship that she has with Tina. In '92, she brought on gay people who were fired from their jobs for being homosexual and then brought on employers to defend their decision to fire gay employees. Employment is a right that we have as an employer, whether we hire or fire somebody. By the same reason that I would not knowingly hire a homosexual, neither would I knowingly hire a prostitute or someone who is a gigolo or someone who is a womanizer because I think I have that right to project a certain image for my company. In '93, she had a segment called Why White Men Fear Black Men, where white men express their views on racism to other black men's faces. I don't feel that the white race, how long can we continue to be guilty? Wrongs were done. It's a shame. They're wrongs presently, but how long can you play on the same thing, something that happened 20 or 30 years ago? And to her credit, she seemed to do a good job at creating these fair environments where individuals with varying opinions can all get a chance to voice them, leaving the audience to decide what to believe. However, she did not give that same grace to celebrities. Because in Hollywood, celebrities are expected to give up their privacy as a part of the job. Their relationships, trauma, addictions, and mistakes are all treated as fair game for someone like Oprah to poke and prod at. Plus, the audience believed that just by being on the show that they had signed up to be interrogated. One of the most awkward interviews Oprah ever had on her show was with Michael Jackson, where she continuously asked questions about his trauma that he grew increasingly uncomfortable answering. I had pimples so badly and my father teased me and I just hated it. I cried every day. Your father would tease you about your pimples. He would tell me I'm ugly. What's your relationship like with him? I love my father, but I don't know him. Are you angry with him for doing that? Sometimes I do get angry. Yes. I don't know him the way I'd like to know him. But this was Michael's first televised interview in 14 years. So she was not going to miss out on her opportunity. So he would tease you, make fun of you? Yes. Did he ever beat you? Yes. And why would he beat you? I guess maybe I don't know if I was his golden child or whatever it was. He was very strict, very hard, and just a look would scare you. Were you scared of him? Very. There's been times when he'd come to see me and I would get sick. Really? I'd start to throw up. Oprah went question by question, bringing up every ridiculous rumor that was ever spread about him. From